Hey my dear friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're looking at the all-new 2020 Toyota Corolla Hybrid. Something wicked this way comes. Well, maybe not wicked, something new for certain. We're going to show it to you inside and out. We're going to take it for a quick drive and I'm going to tell you what I really think. Before we get out on the test drive, we're going to talk about styling because we've got a few little differences here between this and the also all-new Toyota Corolla that rolled out last year. On the grille you have the Toyota logo with the blue highlighting, and as you move around the corner we have also got the hybrid badge on the fender. The wheels, the 15-inch alloy wheels with the cover, very similar to what we see on the Prius. Slightly different design, but the same essential type of wheel. Going around the side, the profile here is identical to the standard Corolla. This is a Corolla Hybrid LE, which means that it is the base model for the hybrid. Pricing out starts at $23,100. Now this one's around $25 and some change because of the fact that this has a number of factory and dealer options on it. From this angle, not a lot to report. This looks like pretty much a run-of-the-mill Corolla LE. Now this does have a few little accessories on it that Toyota put on this. One of these is a protection package, so I've got that little black strip along the bumper and a few other things that are part of this car. And the lower fascia is pretty plain. It's a car that has a nice solid set of styling cues that I found very attractive with the Corolla that I test drove a month or so ago. And the hybrid just carries that through. And of course you get the hybrid logo right there. Right now, this is the cheapest hybrid you can buy from Toyota. This being the LE Corolla Hybrid, starts out at $23,100, about $1,100 less than the least expensive Prius. So if you're looking for a hybrid, this is going to be the entry point in the Toyota line. And sharing a lot with the Prius, you're essentially getting the same exact car, except that it is a sedan and maybe not quite as many of the bells and whistles and styling innovations that the Prius brings. But mechanically speaking, this is the same exact car. I love it when they give me a base model of a vehicle I test like this LE because it really gives me a chance to see what most of the world actually lives in and what they're buying, because the reality is when most of these car companies are giving me fully loaded cars with leather and all of the bells and whistles, it really doesn't represent what most of you are actually buying. So I love it when I get a vehicle like this. And so in the LE interior, I've got a pretty good level of quality when it comes to materials. The switchgear, Toyota quality. That's why a lot of these same switches and a lot of the components that you see here, you'll also find in a Lexus because they're a pretty good quality. The design in the new Corolla, I like it. It's got a nice appeal to it when you look at it, and it's also quite functional. As I sit here, I have a nice instrument cluster ahead of me with a digital screen that's fully programmable. The infotainment system here, this is the LE, so I have a base system that doesn't have a lot of the high-end features, but I do have Bluetooth connectivity, and I do have the ability to do a lot of the N-Tune Suite app functions that are available all the way through the line. There is a backup camera though, and that's a nice thing. From a functionality standpoint, this is very well designed, I think. There's a nice spot up here for my phone. The only thing I don't like about it is I really can't see what's going on with the phone. Some cars have a situation where you can actually face it up so you can see if something lights up on it, but when it's connected, everything comes through up on the main screen. Cup holders there, a reasonably good sized storage area, not terribly large. One nice thing though, with the hybrid in this car, Toyota did not go with the joystick that you're going to find in the Prius. It looks and feels pretty much like a standard Corolla in that way, a gear lever for selecting your actual drive modes. There are some buttons up here for EV mode, drive mode for setting your drive modes, as well as some of the other ancillary functions. These seats, cloth seats, I like the way they feel. There's a nice pattern here. They're made of a sturdy cloth, and so even though this is the base model, it doesn't feel low rent. They're very comfortable. They are manually adjustable, and the seating position actually very good. It's more of a higher seating position than you might be used to in previous Corollas. Now, one thing I really need to point out about the hybrid is the fact that the battery sits under the rear seat. So you have a nice high seating position, not affected any of the measurements when it comes to headroom and things like that. But what's most important, it's a hybrid that still has a 60/40 fold down rear seat, and the trunk is not affected. You still have a full-size trunk. Some hybrids, that battery has intruded into the trunk space. One thing I will point out, there is no spare tire underneath the floor. They've instead elected to do an inflator kit. Now there's room for a spare, so if you just have to have one, you could probably put one in there if you bought this car, but that is a deletion that's worth noting. Ready to go for a drive? Well, let's do it. The first question I always ask when I'm driving a car is, how does it go? So we're getting there, and 60. Now that's not a really scientific 0 to 60 because I did it from a rolling start, but it's a good benchmark for my seat of the pants. What's under the hood here is the same 1.8 liter gasoline engine and 2-motor hybrid system that you're going to find in the Toyota Prius. It has 121 system horsepower, 105 pound-feet of torque. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but what's very important to point out is that with the electric motor that actually provides motive power, really sort of adding to the gasoline engine, that gives you a nice kick in the back when you're driving around town away from a stop sign. So we come to a stop, and so when you're taking off and driving around town, it just has a nice little power curve at first. Now, if you're out on a highway accelerating, yes, you've got 121 horsepower, so you do notice the fact that you're down a little bit there. But what I really need to point out about this hybrid system is the fact that it's really the most refined one that Toyota has ever made. The engine turns off, turns on, you have a transition between electric power and gasoline power, sometimes a combination of both, and this all happens ever so seamlessly. Toyota's just really finally gotten this to a point where it's no longer a science experiment. It's actually something that people that aren't used to driving a hybrid, they can get in this car and just drive it. And now some people might not even know the difference, so there's that. But when it comes to power for passing, you do get an initial burst of electric power along with the thrum of the engine. And I find that for the most part, it's more than adequate. So I'm pretty pleased with that. As pleased as I can be with the hybrid. For this driving enthusiast, this is as good as it gets. So I think that's a compliment. Now, fuel economy, that's really what you buy this car for. The EPA sticker says 52 combined. That is a 53 city MPG and a 52 highway, almost the same with a 52 combined. Now, in my week with this car, driving about 80% city, 20% highway, I eked out, well, not eked out, it just happened, 58 MPG. That's huge, and that's measured at the pump. That's not only what the dash tells me, but measured at the pump, that was also what I got. So I'm very happy with the fuel economy in this car. Very, very happy. When it comes to handling and drive, this is a car that, like the new Prius, is based on the TNGA, which is Toyota New Global Architecture, an all-new chassis platform that in all of the cars that I've tested, including this one, has a much more refined, feeling alive driving experience to it. When you turn, when you go around town, even on a back road, it's got a little bit of spring in its step, and that's something that you could never say for the old generation Prius or Corolla, and that's something that we have here. So we have a car that's actually fun to drive, it's quiet, it feels refined, both around town and on the highway. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, because the old generation Toyota Corolla, not so much, not so much. Most of this review has been about the driving experience of the hybrid variation of the Corolla. Now, just a little over a month ago, I reviewed the Toyota Corolla XSE, which that review is a lot more detailed on the actual interior, the ownership experience, the driving experience, and you can see that review down below, linked down in the information section. All right, my friends, let's wrap it up for the Toyota Corolla Hybrid. I like it. I think they've done a good thing here by offering a Corolla in the hybrid. And really, let's get to my 3 key takeaways, and that'll sort of explain what really presses my buttons here. First thing is Mongo MPG. 58 is what I got this week with this thing, mostly city driving, and that is just fabulous, especially given that it's well over what the EPA sticker promised me. So that's always a good thing when I test a car, but I'm really impressed with that. That is a key takeaway, and that is right in line with what my friend James Lee from 6speedblog.com, check him out. great photographer, great rider. He had this car last week. That's exactly what he got, 58, almost 59. And he even took a road trip up into the desert with it. So very impressed with that MPG. My other key takeaway is that basically the way you need to look at this car, it is a Prius four-door sedan, period. Mechanically speaking, it's identical. It's the same car built on the same chassis. The really big difference is the fact that it's styled like a Corolla. That's it. That's the only difference. It doesn't have a lot of the space age stuff going on in the interior. This is a Prius four-door sedan. That's important because this makes my I buy it list my three key takeaway. My third key takeaway is the fact that I would buy this car because it makes sense. It's affordable, it gets great fuel economy, it's a Corolla, you can't beat it when it comes to reliability. That's anecdotal, but what I like about this is a Prius that you can buy that doesn't scream to the world that you're a nose in the air, tree-hugging, science experiment-loving weirdo, okay? Now, I'm just kidding. Don't take that personally out there. You know, I'm sort of satirizing the popular perception of Prius drivers out there. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of people that's a buying consideration for them. This is a car they can buy. This car I can buy because I love the Prius, but it's a little much for me. I'm not worried about the social stuff. The styling, it's a bit much for me. But this, if I was just looking for a car that made sense, that was going to be bulletproof and just totally make sense financially, this is it. And I like it for that reason. So I'd buy it. I would totally buy this car, and I might. You just never know. So anyway, there you go. If you like the video you just saw, click on the square right there, see my latest one, or better yet, click down there on the round logo and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Either way, stay tuned.